Hello team and welcome back to the channel. So before we start, I would recommend you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You will find tons of amazing hands-on videos on DevOps as well as on cloud DevOps. Talking about today's topic, so today we are going to get started with RBAC, which is one of the most important topic in Kubernetes from security point of view, so that we can limit the access levels on different users. Okay, and we are going to focus on hands-on so that we can understand everything from like in real time how exactly everything is working. Okay, complete examples I have shown from scratch, and also I'm going to explain about kubeconfig file, how it can be used for authentication. Okay, because a lot of people get confused, why do we have kubeconfig file, right? So that also I have shown. Yeah, but yeah, you have to make sure that you are watching the video till end, then only you'll be able to understand. Okay, also team, batch 6 is starting from 30th of July, and as I have mentioned that this is one of the ultimate kind of batch, everything taught from scratch, plus 10 hands-on project we are going to implement in different programming languages, multi-tiers with different kind of database, Postgres, SQL, MongoDB. 10 hands-on implementation we are going to do, plus we are going to have 5 corporate level projects whose architecture I'm going to explain. And the best part about this batch is that I'm going to help you one-to-one through one-to-one connect. I'm going to help you prepare your resume. I'm going to help you like define projects, understand projects, how to explain in interviews, as well as I'm going to help you write different kind of tasks which is good for you in your resume. Okay, so yeah, make sure to check it out. As of now, we are having an early bird discount, after which this course will be coming for 7,500. Okay, so yeah, as compared to the services that I'm going to give in this batch, the price is very low, but yeah, make it check it out, and if interested, you can enroll. So team, let us understand what exactly is RBAC and what exactly it can be used for. Okay, so first of all, what is RBAC? RBAC is first of all, short for role-based access control. Okay. RBAC is a way to define different level of permissions or access levels for different users based on their rules. For example, let's say there are two users, user 1 and user 2. User 1 is quite experienced, having so much of experience and so much of knowledge within that Kubernetes cluster as well as in the current project, while user 2 is completely new. So what I would suggest that if it comes to perform any deployment, I would prefer that only user 1 should be having permission to perform the deployment, while user 2 should not be having permission to perform the deployment, basically creating a difference between the level of permissions. Correct? Why this is being done? As I say, we want that deployment permission should be available to only people who are experienced and have proper knowledge, right? That is one of the reasons. So this creation of like assigning different level of permissions to different users, this is called as role-based access control. Okay, let us understand it with another example. Okay, let us say there is a project. Okay, inside this project we are having 3 users, user 1, user 2 and user 3. Okay, user 1 is quite experienced in the project, like he has been working in the project from like 4-5 years and have a very good knowledge within Kubernetes. User 2 has just joined the project like 2 months ago, and user 3 is completely young professional or like completely fresher. Okay, so what we would prefer that user 1 can have the complete permission, user 2 can have the little bit less permission, and user 3 should be having just view permission, only to view things, right? This level of permission we want to have, right? Obviously it is correct thing. If who is having more experience, they should be having a high level of access, right? So how we can achieve this? So this can be achieved inside Kubernetes using RBAC, role-based access control. Okay, so how, like what exactly do we need to do in order to achieve this? Okay, so first of all, let us say we are having user 1, user 2 and user 3. Okay, then we said we need to first create a role, or basically we need to define different permissions. Okay, that can also be done in 2 ways. One is known as role, one is known as cluster role. Now role is different level of permission that is specific to a namespace. Okay, while cluster role, if you are creating a cluster role, then cluster role is all on the cluster level. That means it will be applied to all the namespaces. Okay, let's say inside my role, what I defined ki XYZ on XYZ namespace, I should be having permission to like deploy, to update, right, to delete, what things like on what resources these actions are allowed, like to create pods, to like create deployment, to create services, these kind of permission I'm having, okay, on the XYZ namespace. But when we create cluster role, then it says whatever permission we define here. For example, let's say I define the permission for deployment, define the permission for updating deployment, okay, and so on. So this will be applied on all the namespaces because it is on cluster level, okay. So next up, what I did, in cluster level, I created 3 roles. First, I created admin role, okay, that is having complete level of permission, like to do deployment, to modify deployment, to delete deployment, all level of permission will be there in this role. Second role that I created is like general role. General role is like that key, you can view all the resources inside each namespace, you can see the pods, services and everything you can see, but you cannot modify, you cannot perform new deployment or even modify the existing ones, okay. Third role that I created, let us call it as other. In other or third role that I have created, that is also on cluster level, in this role I have defined that you should be only able to see the namespaces, but inside the namespaces you cannot view the resources, okay. Other than that, this role, in this role I have defined that you cannot have permission to perform deployment, to delete deployment, to update deployment or any kind of other things like that, okay. That means the level of hierarchy is going down from here to here. This is having maximum permission, it is having like little less permission, and this is like least permission is having, right. So what I did now, using different objects inside Kubernetes, I assigned admin role to user 1 who is the most experienced, assigned the general role to user 2 who is having like around 2 months experience in project, and assigning the third role, which is others, to user 3 which is completely fresher. In this way, properly like access is managed and permission is properly divided now, okay. That's exactly we are going to do today, okay. One of the reasons like why we have to do today, because you know, if I, let's say, if to all the users, if I'm giving admin level of access, okay, and user 3 is completely fresher, so by mistake if he does any deployment, then it might be causing some issues, right. So in order to avoid those kind of issues, we just say that okay, only certain people will be having permission to perform the deployment, okay. So how exactly this whole thing is done, okay. So first of all, we need to create a service account, okay. We create a service account, and in that service account, yeah, let's say I have created a service account XYZ user, okay. Then we have to create a role, and as I said, role can be created 2 ways. One is just role, which is specific to namespaces, or we can create cluster roles, which is on the cluster level, okay. So let's say I'm creating cluster roles. Inside cluster role, first I created admin, then I created general, and then I created a role known as other, okay. Any name you can give, it is completely up to you what kind of name you want to give this role, okay. Third thing, now what we have to do, let's say I want to give XYZ user the admin permission, right, admin level of role. So basically what I have to do, I have to assign this role to this user, right. This assigning of role, it can be done using another object which is known as role binding, okay. So using role binding, we can assign specific roles to user, and whatever permission as of now, like admin was having, let's say the star means complete permission everywhere, okay. So whatever permission this admin role was having, now it is assigned to XYZ user, and now XYZ user can perform all the actions, okay. One more thing I need to tell you about kubeconfig, because we are going to use this later on, okay. Kubeconfig is a specific file inside Kubernetes that contains detailed information about the certificates, certain API server endpoint, those kind of things, detailed information about the cluster, okay. And this same file can be used for authentication. For example, let's say I want to access Kubernetes cluster to run some commands. So first of all, I need to have kubeconfig file, and then kubeconfig file can be used for authentication to the cluster, okay. And why I'm saying that, because we are going to use it today, and I'm going to show you properly, okay. So these 3 things are we need to know: service account, cluster role, or role binding, okay. Now here you need to understand, in order to create these resources, you need to use YAML manifest files, right. What file we need to have? First of all, for a service account, we need to have one YAML file. For creation of role, let's say XYZ role I'm creating, so for that, one YAML file. And in order to assign this role to the service account or the user, we need to create another YAML, which is going to be role binding YAML, okay. So using in this way, you'll be able to differentiate between set up different level of access. Okay. So now let us do it in real time and let us see how exactly this happens. Okay. So let me explain you. Let me remove my pin tab and yeah. So first of all, what we need to do, first of all, we need to set up a Kubernetes cluster using which we can practice. Okay. So team, summarizing everything, basically, 3 service accounts we are going to have, but these 3 service account or users are going to have different permissions. For example, the admin service account, or any name you can put. I'm just putting admin, general, others, but you can put anything. Okay. So on admin service account, it will be having all the permissions to delete some resources, to deploy some resources, to update or anything. Okay. And it has permission to view everything. Service account 2, which is I have named as general, it has permissions like only read. That means it can go into different namespaces, view the resources, but it cannot make any changes. It cannot deploy, it cannot delete, it cannot update, it cannot do those things. Okay. Service account 3, which is going to be almost like very less permission, almost like 0 permissions. It has permissions only to view the namespaces. Okay. So all these 3 permissions I'm going to show hands on how we can set up and how it works. Okay. So for that, what we need to do, let us create some virtual machines. Okay, and let me show this also. Before we create, let me show you this. Let's say I'm creating admin role. So first of all, I created one user, admin service account I created named admin. Okay. Then what I did, I created a role, and here you see star star star. Okay. API groups is basically a section like on API groups, what kind of access you want. Then resources, inside resources, what we can have. If I show you here, inside resources, you can see pod, services, endpoint, namespaces, right? Here also star means like everything, nothing is left out. Then we have verbs. Verbs is basically refers to actions, what kind of actions is allowed. Okay. For example, here you see what kind of actions we have: get, list, watch, right? So for admin role, what I'm saying ki for this admin role, and you can here also you can see cluster role. That means this role will be applied on the cluster level, and it will be applied on all the namespaces. Okay. Here also it's written star means all the permissions, all the level of access is allowed. Okay. For admin role. Okay. Then third YAML that I am writing, I have written cluster role binding. What we are doing, we are binding the cluster role to our service account. Okay. So yeah, this is what we are going to do. So first of all, let us set up cluster. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set up, let's say 5 VMs. I'll explain why later on. Okay. And virtual machine this, and size I'm going to set up T2 medium. DevOps key already having. Okay. And yeah, launch wizard also. Let me just show you the ports that are open on my machine so that you can open the same ports. I can go to security group, primary. These are the inbound rules that I have opened. Maybe you can take a screenshot. Okay. Coming back here, and here I'm giving storage as 20 to each one of them. Launching instance, and okay. So let us connect to them one by one. Let me remove these names. Okay. Let me refresh. Okay, so first I'm going to name as master node. Second is going to be worker node. One master, one worker I'm creating as of now. After that, 3 virtual machines that I'm creating. Okay. Now, okay. So one by one, let us connect to them and let us set up our cluster. So first master I'm going to connect to Mobaxtom session IP address. Username is going to be Ubuntu. Private key. Private key is already present on my local. Okay, and let me rename this also to master. Create a clone of this, and this will be our worker node. Okay. IP address I need to change that I can get from here. Okay. Okay, these 2 machines are set up. So now we can set up our Kubernetes cluster immediately. For that, first of all, always run the command as sudo apt update. Same thing we need to run on worker node also. sudo apt update. Okay, and in order to install a cluster, we need to run few commands which I have written already. I'll copy this command, go back here. So there are a long list of commands. What I'm going to do, I'm going to create a script, vi1.sh, paste those commands here. What are the commands? Basically installation of kubeadium, kubelet and kubectl. Okay, save this, and we need to change the permission so that this script can be executed. How we can do that? Sudo chmod plus x for like adding the execution permission for Ubuntu user, then file name for which we are adding. So click enter. Now we can simply execute this by /1.sh. Meanwhile it is getting executed. Same thing we need to run here on the worker node. Again creating 1.sh shell script, paste the commands here, save this, change the permission so that it can be executed, plus x 1.sh, and execute the script. Okay, and we can check the progress for the master node here. Okay, I guess it's, yeah, on master node it's completed, and the status on worker node, yeah, it's also almost completed. Okay, okay, so this is done. Next up what we have to do, so now we can yeah, first of all, yeah, few more commands we have. So basically as of now this command will do what? It's going to create a token. This command is going to initialize the pod network CIDR, and also it's going to create a token using which we can connect our worker node to master node. Okay, so let us do that as well. Let's wait for a few seconds. Yeah, meanwhile, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out any of the videos. Okay, this might take a little bit of time, I guess. Okay, it's in progress. Okay, now you can see here at the command desk, then you can join any number of worker node by running the following on each as root. That means we need to run this command on any of the worker node to make them connect to the master node. Okay, and we need to run as root, so I'm going to add sudo, then paste the commands. Okay, and yeah, here you can see this node has joined the cluster. That means this worker node is connected to master node. Okay, after that few more commands we have to run on master node, so let me run that. Basically we are setting up a kubeconfig file, the default kubeconfig file for the root user, you can say. And yeah, now we have to apply this thing, Calico, which is for networking, and then we need to apply another YAML which is for ingress and Nginx controller. Okay, yeah, after this command basically we have set up our cluster. Okay, just to confirm, I can run the command kubectl get nodes. You can see cluster is set up. This is the second one is the master node, first one is the worker node. Okay, that means it is created. One more thing I'll show you. If I go to this location /kube/config, so this is the kubeconfig file using which we can like access Kubernetes cluster. Okay, now what we have to do, we have to create user service account, cluster roles, and role binding we have to do. Okay, and then I'm going to show you the different level of permissions. Okay, so before we start that, I wanted to just let you know that batch 6 is starting from 30th of July, and it's going to be dedicated batch. We are going to cover almost everything, DevSecOps and cloud DevOps. Okay, and when it comes to CI/CD tool, we are covering Jenkins, GitLab CI/CD, GitHub Action, and Azure pipelines as well. The best part about this course is that, first of all, it will be having 10 hands-on projects that we are going to implement. Those projects are in different programming languages, multi-tier with different databases, and then 5 projects will be corporate level that I'm going to explain you the architecture, that are these kind of projects exist in companies. Okay, side by side, at the end of course, I'm going to connect to you one-to-one, help you build your resume, help you understand different projects, and help you to add different tasks in your resume, which is like and also help you understand so that you can explain in interviews. Okay, so yeah, it's starting from 30th. As of now, we are having early bird discount batch 6. The early you roll, you can get this discount and you can enroll. Okay, so make sure to check it out. Coming back, so now first of all, what I'm going to do, I'm going to set up one admin service account, one cluster level role for admin, and role binding I need to do. So for that, I'm going to first of all create this YAML which is for admin. This YAML will be having complete level of permission. Okay, admin.yaml. Just to let you know, all the three things I have added here: the creation of service account, you can see the creation of roles, and here star star means that complete level of permission everywhere it's there. Okay, and third is role binding. Basically, we are binding this admin role to our service account, which is admin. Okay, so now let us save this and let us run this kubectl apply -f then admin. Okay, what just happened? Service account got created, which is admin. Role got created, which is admin role, and then when we just assigned this admin role to user admin. Okay, now admin user is having complete level of permissions. Okay, next up what we are going to do, so next up I'm going to create general. Okay, first I'm going to create one service account which will be known as general, and I'm going to create a cluster role which will be having just what kind of permission. You can see on pod services endpoint namespaces, what permission? Get list watch. That means it's just read only access. Then we are also giving access on deployment, replica set, daemon set, and stateful sets. What permission? Just read only. Okay, and on jobs and cron jobs, again just read only. Okay, and then we are going to assign this role to user general. So let us do that as well. Copy that and create this file vi gen.yaml. Save this. Okay, and we can apply this. How we can apply? kubectl apply. Okay, and this is also done. Last thing that I want to create another one which is just like very base level of access. What kind of access we am giving? Only to view the namespaces, nothing else. Okay, no, this user cannot view pods, this user cannot view services, endpoints, or deployments, anything, just the namespaces. Okay, so let us do that as well. vi other.yaml, paste it here. Okay, and let us apply this. This is also done. Okay, now in order to test that they are working fine, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create first of all some namespaces. Okay, kubectl create namespace. I'm going to name it as ns1 first, ns2, ns3. Okay, and in ns2 I'm going to perform a deployment. What deployment I'm going to do? Let me explain you. ds.yaml. So I have one manifest files using which I'm going to perform the deployment. Let me pick up one project. It is having the YAML manifest files, so we can use that. Okay. And I'm going to do this deployment inside namespace 2. Okay, so this is done. Now what we have to do, we have to create kubeconfig specific to each of those accounts, each of those service accounts, so that that kubeconfig file can be used for authentication. Okay, and I'll show you how it can be used for authentication. So first of all, let us do one more thing. We need to create tokens. Okay, token, yeah. So once we have done this, next step would be to create token for each of the users. Okay, first of all, let us create token for admin user. This is the token. Make sure that you are copying it, and I will paste it here. This is for admin. Okay, after admin, I want to create token for the second one. which is general. Okay, copy that as well and let us paste it here. And third, I'm going to create, which is going to be for other users. Okay, and let us copy this as well. Now token we have created. Now we have to create the kubeconfig file. Okay, so how we can create? So there is a first of all template available for kubeconfig. Okay, so first kubeconfig that I'm going to create, I'm going to copy this, go on YAML lint, and let us modify. This thing we need to change here first of all, and certificate authority data and server we need to change. So team, this is the kubeconfig file and this is the certificate authority data that we need to copy. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy it from here to, so team, here, and then paste here in the certificate authority data. Make sure you are pasting it correctly. First delete and then paste. Okay, after that make sure that this server thing you are checking and make sure it is the correct one. If I scroll here, you can see 172.31.33 177, right? 172.31.33 177, like means it is correct. After that we need to provide the token for what? This is for admin kubeconfig, so we need to provide the token for admin kubeconfig, which we have created, right? So I'll copy this and let us paste it here. And kubeconfig is also correct. Let me just verify one time. Yeah, okay, so now YAML file is ready. Next up, what we have to do, we need to test this kubeconfig file if it is working or not, and if it has specific permissions or not. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new server, a new session. Let us rename this. Let us rename this to 3, and we need to change the IP address that we can get from here, instances. Yeah, give me 1 second. Let me just log in again. And let me provide MFA code. Okay, 45086. Okay, so we are logged in and let us connect to this one. Change the IP address. Okay, so now what we have to do, we have connected a third newly created virtual machine. Here nothing we have installed, right? So first thing we need to do, sudo apt update, okay, to update all the packages. And after this we need to install kubectl so that we can communicate with Kubernetes cluster. Okay, but again for communication we want to communicate using admin service account. That means we need to take a specific kubeconfig file. Okay, now what we have to do, we need to install kubectl. So let us do that. And since kubectl is not present, but we got the command to install, and after that make sure that you are adding classic. Okay, sorry, it's small mistake. Okay, and let's wait for this to complete. Once it is completed, then we can create our admin kubeconfig file. Okay. Yeah, almost completed. Okay, so this is done. Now if I run this kubectl get nodes, it's going to give error because as of now we have not done anything, right? Connection we have not created. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a kubeconfig file. This is going to be kubeconfig, any name you can give, it is up to you. I'm just going to give kubeconfig admin.yaml. What is the value that we need to put? We need to put the value that we have here. Okay, copy that, paste it here, save this. Okay, still kubeconfig file is created, but still this Linux machine does not know that okay, this is a kubeconfig file. So we need to tell this virtual machine how we can do that. So for that we need to export the kubeconfig file. Okay, and here we need to provide the path where it is stored, and we are storing it here, right? As soon as I run this kubeconfig export command, now Linux will understand, okay, this specific file admin.yaml file is the kubeconfig file which we need to use for authentication. Okay, so now we can run this command kubectl get node, and you can see now we are able to access the node. Okay, now just to check out the permissions that we have set up, kubectl get namespaces, we can see all 3 namespaces are there, right? And also in the second namespace we have deployment, right? So I can check out this kubectl get all -n ns2. We can see the deployments also. Okay, let us say like I want to update deployment, right? Basically delete deployment. Okay, what I can do, kubectl and let's say delete pod. I'm going to delete the pod so that it can be created automatically by itself. Okay, and where is it? -ns2. Now you can see deleted. That means this admin kubeconfig file, this permission that I set up for service account admin user, it has the permission to delete resources, right? So now we have tested the admin kubeconfig and it has the permission to delete also. That means admin role, cluster role that we created, it is working fine. Now same thing we need to check with respect to second one, which is the general, right? So what I'm going to do, paste it here. We need to make some changes, right? First of all, we need to get the certificate authority data. Okay, so let me remove the old one and we need to add the new certificate authority data from the master. Okay, so we can, where is it? Yeah, we can get it from here till here. Okay, copy that, paste it here. Okay, after that make sure the server is also correct. Server URL we have this one, copy that, paste it here. Okay, later on we need to now what we need to add, we need to add the token for general service account, right? That we have already created. So I can copy from here to here, copy that. This is for general, right? Paste it here and yeah, YAML is fine. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to connect to a different machine, let's say the second machine, and from here I'm going to try to access and check out the permissions. So I'm going to create duplicate session. Let us rename this to change the IP address. Okay, now first thing that we need to run sudo apt update. Okay, so let's wait for this. Once it is done, again we are going to install kubectl. Okay, kubectl, okay, kubectl is not present, I guess. Kubectl command not found. Okay, so we need to install it using the snap command that we can do. Let me get the command. Yeah, using this command we can install it. So I'll copy this, paste it here, --classic. Okay, so let it install kubectl and then we can create our kubeconfig file with cluster role and service account general. Okay, and I'll show you that using service account we won't be able to delete the pod that I deleted using admin, but with general it won't be possible. Okay, so let me create the kubeconfig dash general. Okay, dot YAML, and we can paste the contents here. We have the contents, right? Copy that, paste it here, save this. So now we have tested the admin kubeconfig and it has the permission to delete also. That means admin role, cluster role that we created, it is working fine. Now next up, what we have to do, once we have added the kubeconfig file, we need to export it. Okay, that we can do using /home/ubuntu then kubeconfig file. Once we have done that, we can run the command kubectl get namespaces. You can see namespaces we are able to view, right? But if I run this command kubectl get nodes, you can see it's not, general user is not having the permission to view the nodes, right? Similarly, if I want to see this thing, kubectl get all -n, then we have done deployment in ns2, right? You can see we are able to see the details, right? Now let us see, like we are able to get the details from ns2 user, but still we are not having access on all the things. We are having access on pods and services, but not on replication controllers. Okay, So what I can try to do now, let us try to delete something. kubectl delete pod. Let us try to delete one pod. Let's say this one. And since we do not have permission on general user to delete the pod, so here we are going to get forbidden error. Okay, you can see forbidden error, right? That means the service account general, we have correctly created it, and the rules that we have assigned, they are limited to view the things, right, but not modify. Similar kind of thing, let us try with the third user, which we have for other users, that is just to view the namespaces, nothing else. Okay, so what we have to do here, we have to update others. Okay, so let me make the changes here itself. Others, here we have others, and this one also. Okay, and yeah, this last, others, and we need to change the token. So first of all, let me change the token. Okay, and we need to provide the token that we generated for the other user, right? So we can copy this, paste it here. Okay, this is fine. And let me just check clusters, others context, and so and so. Okay, this is fine. Now let us connect to the this machine, and we are going to connect to this one. Copy the IP address. Let us create a duplicate of it. Let us rename this to 1 and IP address. Okay, and let us connect to it. Here we need to, first of all, we need to run sudo apt update. Okay, and after that we need to install kubectl. Finally, we'll be able to check, and as you see that on admin service account, complete permission, general, few permissions are not given, while on this others service account will be having very less permission. Okay, so let us try to first install kubectl. Command not found, but we have the command to install. Second, yeah, this one. Okay, so let us install, and meanwhile we can copy this also, kubeconfig file. Okay, so let's wait for this to complete. Okay, so now let us create the file kubeconfig-others.yaml. Okay, paste the contents, make sure correct things you have correctly written. Okay, and next we need to export it, right? kubeconfig equal to /home/ubuntu and the file that we have just created. Okay, now if I run the command kubectl get namespaces, this will work. We are able to see the namespaces. That means we are able to connect to Kubernetes cluster. But let's see, if I try to run the command kubectl get pods -n ns2, because inside ns2 we have deployed, right? You can see forbidden. That means only namespaces details we can see, but we cannot see any other resource, neither we can modify. That means the order of permission, the order of permission that we have created is something like this. First we have admin, which is biggest, then we have general, then we have others. Okay, so three groups, basically these are three kind of cluster roles which can be assigned to different users, and you know, one role can be assigned to multiple users. It's fine. That means if I assign admin cluster role to 2 users, then those 2 users will be having high level of permissions. Okay, so yeah team, that will be all for today, and I hope it was useful. Also team, make sure to check it out, batch 6, which is going to get started on 30th of July. Okay, so yeah, that will be all for today, and thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Next up, what we have to do, once we have added the kubeconfig file, we need to export it. Okay, that we can do using /home/ubuntu then kubeconfig file. Once we have done that, we can run the command kubectl get